coffee break with me. Come and take your coffee break with me. Come and take your coffee. Come and take your coffee. Come and take your coffee break with me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coffee Break with Candace and David. I'm your co-host, David Marino, and I'm here today with Lottie Loera, the artistic director for Testify, which is a storytelling show that's done in Austin, and I'll let you talk more about that. But Lottie, first of all, we've talked to you before about Testify, but now you're actually the one that's in charge of all of it, right? So tell me what's changed since last time.
Well, what's changed is Kate Caldwell, who originated the show, started everything on her own. She's had a baby, and her life has gotten kind of full, as happens. So I talked to her, and I love what she had created. And I said, I really would like Testify to continue in some form. And what had she thought about? And she suggested that we take it over. That it's her baby, and I know it hurts her to leave, but she has a real baby that needs her. So she decided that we could go ahead and keep it going and do what we think we can with it. So I was very excited by that, and I was very honored because I respect Kate a lot. She's done a lot with Testify and to create this space here in Austin.
Well, let's talk about Testify. What is Testify for those who don't know, who have never heard of it?
Okay, I'm going to give you 2, maybe 3 answers, because pre-COVID, it was a once-a-month storytelling show that we did live. In the last venue we had was the Spider House Ballroom, but we had experimented with other venues before then. During COVID, we did things virtually, and now at the beginning of 2022, everything going well, we're looking for a new place to go ahead and start doing the live shows over again. The Spider House Ballroom was bought and sold, and the people there are more interested in music. They are not really interested in a storytelling show, so it's time to try something different.
And so the way it works is every month is a different theme, right? In terms of the subject matter of the show. And I think what I always find interesting is that these are just regular people who get up in front of an audience, whether it's virtual or in person, and they talk about some truth in their life, but it's based around whatever topic that month is focused on, right?
It is. And Testify has always been true stories. It has to be your true story to tell. Our theory and our belief, and my belief along with Kate's, is that really true stories are they connect people. People will find something in your story that relates to them in a way that, fables and all these other things, which are interesting and have a lot to teach us, in a way that those don't. So we like the true story thing. We do have different themes. We have 11 picked out for 2022. Hope that we get to do all 11 of them live and in color. And while the themes are a basic jumping off point for everyone to find something to submit to, really what they work as is people think, well, I maybe I have a story, and they'll see a theme and they say, well, my story might fit this. And that kind of helps percolate things for people. And sometimes we surprise people because we will hear their story differently than they hear it. And we'll move it to a different theme because for us, it resonates differently. So while people might apply for a certain theme, if they don't decide or don't have an idea of where it should go, apply anyway, we'll find a home for it.
And the types of stories that people tell kind of range, right?
Oh,
yes. You yourself have gone up on stage and told your stories. Yeah. But when we talk about that, I know you have producers that work as part of the show. And so you pair that person that's going to be speaking about whatever truth they're sharing with a producer, and they help them sort of make it come to life or flesh it out, right? Can you talk about that?
Yeah, Angela Maldonado is one of our producers. She's going to be our lead producer. And we brought on a new producer, Mark Gifford. And their job is to walk new storytellers through the process. Because I think what makes us different, there's lots of storytelling shows out there. We work with people. We want to hear your ideas for your story. We want to see where you think you're going from it, or going with it. We want to talk to you about your story. And after you've gone through this with your producer, about usually the week before, maybe 7 to 10 days before the show, we have a meeting with all the producers where you actually perform your story for us. And we will have questions to ask you. We will have ideas to throw at you. We will ask you why you use this word or this phrase here, or what this means when you said this, or who's this person that you mentioned. We will walk you through your story in a way that you don't get from other people. And what that does, or what it did for me when I first, Angela was the one who brought me on to Testify. When I went through this with them, what you find is that there are threads that lead places that you didn't know they led. Like all of a sudden you'll say, I forgot to mention this person. And this person is actually the whole reason for the story. And you have to find a way to bring them back in because they're important. And things that you swear need to be in the story, they don't belong and no one cares about them at all. Uh-huh. So that's what makes Testify different, is the fact that we will help you build your story. And while we've got a lot of regular storytellers that come on, we really want to reach out to people who have never told a story, because I think that, one, it's freeing when you're able to share yourself with people. And what happens is you will see yourself mirrored in your audience. You will have people that will come up to you and tell you, you spoke to me, you spoke about me. And it changes the way you see yourself. That's what we think we do.
So for you, are there any stories that somebody's told or something that sticks out to you in terms of, sharing? Do you have anything as an example that you can share? That I know that, like, as you're saying, the whole point of this is really so that I feel with this kind of show, at least for me, what I would get out of it is that you relate to that person, even if it's not something you've necessarily gone through exactly. I feel like there's always an element of, in people's lives, whatever they've gone through, that you can sort of, oh, I know what that feels like. Yes. Even if it's not the same exact situation. And so for you, is there anything that sticks out, whether it's one of your own stories or one that somebody's told that sort of really resonated with you?
There are so many stories. We've done over 300 stories to date, and I find something in all of them. And I always feel uncomfortable talking about other people's stories, because it's their story. Yeah. So what I will say is that for several of the stories I have told, I have had people come to me later and tell me, I didn't know what you were talking about. Because there's one that I talk about when I was on antidepressants, and they said, I didn't know what you were talking about. And then I got on antidepressants for depression, and this started happening to me. And I had to remember your story, because your story walked me through what changes happened in my body because of these medications. And it was so nice to hear that, because what it means is something you said stuck with these people. And I honestly think it's the honesty of a true story that sticks with people. They see you, they're watching you, they can see your emotions, they hear your voice. It makes it so real for them that they don't let go of it even after they leave. We just saw a stand-up comedian a couple of days ago, and I love her. But when you go see a stand-up show, the next day you don't remember the jokes. Mm-hmm. You don't remember the routines. You might remember a little piece here and there. That's because you're not really connecting with these people. It's a performance. You're enjoying it. It's hilarious. We paid money to go, and I would go see her again. But it's not something that you're going to recall a year later. With personal stories, it is, because you have that person and you are looking them in the eye when they talk to you. They are talking to you, not to everybody. They resonate with you as the listener. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And we touched on themes. What are some of the themes coming up this year? I know you don't have to go through all of them, but I know that there's 11 different
We have
themes?
11 different themes, because we tend to take December off. Our first one will be just like starting over. because that's what we're doing. We're not starting over, but it's just like we're starting over. And whatever that means to people, however that resonates with them, however it feels when they hear that phrase, tell us a story about that. But in October, we have one, ghosts, but they don't have to be haunted ghosts. It doesn't have to be a scary thing. Sometimes it's a ghost of a person that's not dead. It's a ghost of a memory, or it's a ghost of something you wish you'd done. These themes all can come from different places. Another one, I have them all here in front of me, Lost and Found, which we thought was interesting because, as you know, the older we get, as life passes us, there are things that you lose and there are things that you find again that you didn't know you lost. And that's my interpretation of it. People are going to have their own way of looking at it, and we want to hear what they have to say about it.
That's great. I like the different subjects. Although I will say it seems like it would be scary or intimidating as somebody that would take that on. So how do you guys put them at ease? I mean, like if somebody's never gotten in front of an audience and well, even if they have been in front of an audience, I think the difference with this is that you are sharing something that's personal. Whereas if in your work you get up and you speak to people, but it's very related to your job and it's something that you know, I think it's really vulnerable if as a person you're getting up and you're sharing something that is about you, because there's always that fear that we all have of judgment. I mean, no matter how old you are,
Yes,
there's that part of that comes out where you're like, you don't want to care, especially as you get older. You
but
don't care as much, but you care a little.
You care
Yeah,
enough.
you do care.
You care enough.
Yeah, you care enough that it still gets to you. So how do you, I think that's where the producers come into play, right? With helping to put people at ease and making sure that they're presenting the best version of that story, right?
Well, we will. And we will walk through people to calm their nerves. I will always tell people that, a little nervous, it's fine. Go ahead. Be nervous. People in the audience expect you to be nervous. You're not a professional. They know this. You're talking about your life. They came specifically. They paid to hear about your life. A little nervous is okay, but they're expecting it. And we do walk our people through it. In fact, I know that there's several places that teach storytelling here in Austin. And I've spoken to some of their students and some of the students who will take the class, but still won't tell a story because they want to know how to do it, but they don't want to do it because they're afraid. And it's one of those things, either you'll get through it or you won't, but you will find that when you're on stage looking at people and they're actually looking at you, and they're not looking at you like you owe them something. They're not looking at you like a comedian that's doing a job or an actor or an actress who's responsible for entertaining them. They're looking at you like they want to know something about you. And it's an entirely different relationship.
Yeah. What do you get out of it? And how long have you been a part of Testify?
I've been with Testify for 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And what I get out of it is absolute joy in watching people share sides of themselves that they don't normally get to share. Those sides that we're afraid of, those sides that we're ashamed of. Everyone has them. And they're usually the same sides. We're all, everyone wishes they had been a better brother or a better sister. Everyone wishes they had been a better son or a better parent. Everyone has these same things that they wish they had tried harder or they wish they had not tried so hard. We all have them. Our stories are the same. And when you tell your version of your story, you wake something up in someone else. And that's the connection. And I love seeing that. There's nothing nicer than the end of a show when people come up and they have to talk to the storytellers because they're looking at them and saying, you told me myself. You told me what happened to me. And it's so freeing to watch these people join and talk and learn that they're not alone.
And Testify has been around for how many years?
This is our 9th year now.
9th year. Okay. I'm curious how you feel about this, but The world has obviously changed over.
Yeah.
It always is changing.
Yes.
But I would say just in my lifetime that it seems like the last maybe 3 years, 4 years has been extremely challenging in a number of different ways for everybody.
Yes.
We're seeing things, that maybe we haven't seen before, pandemic that we're living through. And although social unrest and social injustice has always existed, there are times when it feels like today it's magnified in a way that maybe it wasn't as magnified before, or at least maybe it's magnified more now because we have social media and we're
Yes.
seeing it. I think it's always existed, but now it's everybody seeing things that are not necessarily always positive, or they're seeing the realness of life all the time. I feel like maybe these days people do want to find escapes. And even like in going to something like Testify, this maybe helps, I would think, them feel like, okay, I'm not alone in feeling this overwhelming amount of whether it's depression or their anxiety or just dealing with the everyday things in life, when you also have all these other exterior things that are starting to come in. I do feel like that impacts people's mental, even if they're not
It would have
directly
to.
impacted.
Yeah.
So I don't know what your thoughts are on that, because for me, I would think that Testify and stories like that, storytelling, would be a great outlet and a place that maybe even now it's more relevant than it ever has been for people to feel like they relate in some way when there's so much of people being torn apart.
Well, I think you said that beautifully.
Yeah.
I think it does create a relationship and a way for people to connect with others that feel, I want to say feel the same way, but that's not always true, because sometimes people don't know how to feel in a situation. And we have, when a white guy is listening to a black lady tell about her experience, she has a way of reaching him that news articles can't, that a post on Facebook can't, because he's watching her tell her truth. And that's what changes things. That's what changes an audience, is learning these are not just things that I hear about. These are things that other people live. And when you see things that way, when you hear that voice, it's going to change the way you look at the world. And it's going to change the way you look at yourself, because we all have this idea of who we are and how we fit and what we do and what's normal. Everyone thinks they're normal. I have this theory that everyone thinks they're normal and all of us are wrong, because no one is normal. There's no such thing. But you learn that what you think and what you do and what you say matters more than you give it credit for.
Yeah, that's true. That's really deep. Also, like, when you think about it, as much as we all try to think that we're so diverse and that we know all these different types of people, we all do, in a sense, live in our own bubbles. And so just that example that you gave is a perfect example of, I've never heard that story in that way, and I don't know someone like you. And so it is almost like a learning experience for people, or maybe an awakening for some.
Well, I think awakening is the perfect word.
Yeah.
Because you are opening your eyes and seeing an entirely different world.
Yeah.
It's not your world. It's a world you live in, but it's not your world. So you're opening your eyes and you are learning to embrace more of the world. I hope that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
How do people who are interested in telling a story go about getting involved in Testify?
Go to testifyatx.com. We have a submission page, and we're in the midst of relaying out the website right now. So excuse any bugs that happen to be appearing. I am not a web designer, so I'm learning as we go.
Mhm.
But you can go through, you'll see all of the, what am I trying to say? What's the word?
The menu?
All the shows. You'll have
shows,
all
okay.
the list of the shows that we're doing for this year. You'll have that, and you'll be able to go ahead and see our contact page. You can submit to a show, And on our contact page, you can reach out to us. And I would like for people to let us know what they want to know about storytelling. Because one of the things that we're hopefully going to be doing over the course of the year is have some workshops.
Okay.
Because I think that from our vantage point, we see storytelling different than a lot of other people do. And I think we can help people feel more at ease and more willing to step out of their usual skin.
Yeah.
That's what I hope.
Well, and now that you are in charge, you get to be
That sounds so
driving
scary.
the car there. And this may be a question that's premature, but are there some ideas that you have moving forward that maybe some things you haven't done before? You talked about workshops. I don't know if you've done those before, but are there things in your mind that are kind of, maybe they're not fully vetted yet, but that you're thinking that you'd like to experiment with in the future with the show?
Yeah, there are.
Okay. You don't have to talk about it. I'm just curious.
We have some outreach that we'd like to do with different
Mhm.
communities that we don't normally get to. We have never recorded our shows, and we're going to start doing that this year because I like the immediacy of being in the theater, but I think these stories deserve to live outside of just that space.
Yeah.
And I want people to hear them.
Well, and they, like we've just been talking about, having that way of sharing them, like to a place to live in video, that will maybe serve as a source of inspiration for some people when they're watching those stories. They may think, oh, that will help things
Yes.
resonate. And also it may also attract people to want to come and tell a story.
Well, plus
Yeah.
you'll see, if you see some of the early shows that I was in, if we had them, you would say, "Oh my gosh, look how scared he is."
Yeah.
And he did it anyway. And so that is inspiring as well. You'll see that people are afraid, but you can do it anyway. And we will be there to hold your hand the whole way.
Yeah. And there are some videos of you out there, right? Are they with Testify, or they're
There's one that's a Testify video, and
Uh-huh.
other ones from The Moth, which I did too
Okay.
in Miami. So I have those as well. So there are, and I've done other things, other storytelling things for
Mhm.
Tales from Driftwood and other places, and I've been with you a couple of times, or
Yeah.
one time before. So
Yeah, so it's
I'm around.
exciting. Yeah. What else kind of goes through your mind when you think of Testify, and what would you like to get out to the public about it that maybe they don't know or haven't heard before? I mean, you did focus on the difference, which is there's a lot of almost like a mentoring
Yes,
with the show.
what I think true tales told honestly is life. We like, people have this idea that a story has to be overwhelming. You have to save someone from a fire. You have to have pulled puppies from a burning ship at sea. That's a story. Well, that's might be a story. I mean, sometimes who cares? You can see someone pull puppies out of a burning building. That's it. Why? What do these puppies mean to you?
Mhm.
Why do you like dogs? What was your first dog's name? Do you have a dog now? The story isn't an action story. Testify is about how you feel about the tiny moments in your life, because those are the things that all the big moments are built on. So it's about these little things. It's about what you did today. You saw a butterfly and it made you cry. Why? That's interesting, because other people are crying over butterflies. Other people saw a kitten that was lost and they cried. Other
Mhm.
people saw a leaf fall from a tree and it made them smile and laugh. Those are the moments we're talking about. You don't have to have a life of torment and torture. A quiet life is full of its own stories.
Then that's a great point, because it doesn't have to be some traumatic thing that's happened to you.
We have those stories too,
Yeah.
and we want them, but no, it does not
Yeah.
have to be that.
Because sometimes the smallest things can have a really huge impact. Like
They
the
is
little
the
things you
smallest
recognize.
things have the most meaning to us, because when you're a kid, your teacher, your mother, your brother, your sister, they said something to you and you took it in a way that you held for the rest of your life.
which forced you into therapy and all those other things, you know?
Yes,
Yeah.
it does. And that could be an interesting story too.
Yeah. You talked about, off camera, which people might not think this, even watching this interview, that you are more introverted.
Oh, yes.
So I think that's interesting, though, and it's a good point to make for people who are watching this, that you don't have to be this bigger than life personality to get up on a stage and share something that's really personal to you. I think sometimes people think, well, I'm not outgoing, I'm not extroverted, I can't do that. That's really not what this is about, though.
No, it's not. Yeah, I am that. For me, being here with you and your helper, 3 people is a good amount of people for me.
Yeah.
4 if my partner is there. If you start bringing in more people, I get freaked out. That's too many people. And you might think it feels the same way with an audience in front of you. And I will be honest, it does for the first few seconds you're on stage. But it's not, because you are not there to entertain, although they will find you entertaining.
Right.
You're just there to tell a story. And people tell stories all the time. You tell a story to your partner, you tell a story to your friends. If you're like me, I walk dogs every once in a while. I tell stories to my dogs.
Yeah.
You tell stories all the time. It's just what we do.
So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that, because I don't want people to assume that everybody that gets up to tell a story is this, extroverted, that's what they're used to doing.
No, and we get those people and we love them because
Right.
they're interesting. But I will be very honest with you. We get nice, quiet, shy stories that everyone understands, because even extroverted people have those moments where they're unsure of themselves. Just like introverted people can do this from time to time with
Yeah.
people they feel comfortable with. Your quiet story is just as interesting as someone else's, I climbed a fire ladder to pull a kitten out of a tree. It's just as interesting to everybody, if not more so, because it's more personal. And these quiet moments are the ones that we don't share with anybody. So when you do that, you open a window to yourself, and you open a window in those people, in the hearts of the people in the audience, to themselves, because now they see themselves in you.
Yeah.
I
That's
love
awesome.
storytelling. I just love it. I love Testify. I'm so grateful for Kate Caldwell for starting this. To me, it's just one of the most beautiful art forms there is, because everything is a story, but Shakespeare wrote stories, all plays, movies, everything is a story. But when it's your personal story, you're giving me something that I don't get anywhere else.